And this is their father, is Big Daddy's father.
Charles, is that the one?
Arthur Nell, isn't it? Arthur Nell, George Washington, and Arminda, who you're named after.
Yes. I was just thinking I need to make a collage of the Armindas in the family.
Yeah.
Because there's, I think...
Mindy and you and...
No, not me. Aunt Mary.
Yeah.
The original Arminda. Mindy. Charlotte. And one of Nancy's grandkids,
Julia?
Might be. I don't really know her middle name.
it's probably a middle name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably on
I
this
thought
book.
it'd be interesting.
Well, no, these are grandchildren. It doesn't go that far. It goes to Pat and...
There's some guy on YouTube that you have to sit in, get on a bus or on a train and start drawing the person across the aisle. And then he hands it to them. And they cry. They hug. What? Can't believe you did that with me?
I don't think I know who you are.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm gonna guess. Are you related to Mindy Fuller?
Mother.
Oh, you look kind of like her. So.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
See, my mother, her mother, and Don Puffer were all
Brothers and
siblings.
sisters. Okay. I'm Chad Rupert. I don't know if I've ever met you before. Nice to meet you. I've known Mindy for a long time. So.
Yeah, most people in
Here's the
Mechanicsville
wedding
have. Yeah, that's the one I've got, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember at their 50th wedding anniversary that they duplicated that. Ronnie Rogers says, "Do it like you did in your wedding picture."
Phil said that I looked like, well, not in this picture, but in, I think she was 45 or something, that I looked like Bruce. But, of course, I didn't think so.
Well, we'd never agree on on those things.
No.
There, 50th.
Oh, yeah. That was their 50th wedding anniversary.
Yep.
They ordered lobster out of Maine.
Really?
That's where I learned to dance for the first time.
Was that the
They
50th?
wanted it to record.
Yeah.
And it's
Where did they have it?
lighthouse.
Yeah, wasn't it called something else then, no? Wendy Oaks, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, out by Wabi. That area,
No,
Windy
no.
Oaks.
No, it'd be the one on Mount Vernon Road.
Oh, okay.
It's a lighthouse.
Okay,
Lighthouse.
lighthouse now. Okay.
I don't remember what it
I
was
don't
then.
remember what it was.
Okay.
I just remember it as being the lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I've got this recording for the Mechanicsville History Center. We're just getting together with Joel Brown and Jack Coon and Jackie Puffer to interview regarding some of the history of Mechanicsville and the surrounding area. So I guess if you guys just want to talk, I'm going to record.
You were right. Granddad lived up there in 1954. They moved
Yeah.
uptown. We were having a discussion on, and of course, you know, I think I'm always right, but I wasn't.
You were right.
For once. Well, I kind of did some brainstorming here the other day of what I considered kind of interesting things, some well-known media personalities that came out of Mechanicsville with Paul Eels and brother Doug Brown. They were Paul was the voice of the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Really?
And about the time he was retiring, he got in a wreck and got killed. And then Doug worked at the WI radio in Ames, and then he did a lot of wrestling play-by-play. And one of his specialties was reading a book on the air. And he had all those voices. He could, the accents of British,
Yeah.
and you would never miss.
And who was that did that?
My brother Doug,
Doug.
and that he passed about 10 years ago. But, and I know,
Every year they still they read his
New Year.
rendition of the,
yeah, New Year,
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve, that's always
Christmas
played.
Carol, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
WOI.
Just
Does-
any of the PBS stations.
Oh,
Yeah.
But when he passed, like our senator at that time said that he was a Iowa treasure. And I just kind of go down what stood out to me is the train station here. And I remember my mother talking about every Friday night, they get in the buckboard and go to town and see who gets off the train. That was the big show.
Their entertainment.
And and then it was also a vital place for hauling livestock to Chicago, hogs, cattle, sheep, and equipment. And the animals were sent to Chicago because that's where the packers were. And I hear a lot of stories of the young boys that took that trip. Harry Torr lived where I do when he was playing basketball in high school. So the team took a train to Solon to play basketball. And on the way back, he fell asleep. And they didn't wake him up, and he woke up in DeWitt. So they had to go through all the motions to get him back, because his grandmother was
Well,
supposed
did Harry Torr go to school here in Mechanicsville?
Yeah.
Then I bet his picture's in that book. You know what year he graduated?
They left here in 28.
Oh.
They lost the farm with the Depression. And then one that really stood out that was, I think we all take for granted, was the old Page Motel, or hotel. That's where the travelers, on the train would come
Yeah.
up and stay.
And that's Virginia Wilson's mom and dad own that.
Yeah. And I think Page, then Page's mother, I think, was running it at that time too, wasn't it? Because it goes back a long ways.
yeah, I can't remember how it all. In her interview, she talks a lot about the hotel
Yeah,
because when she was a little girl, she lived there.
yeah. And Donnie Puffer always talked about her brother lived out at the mill pond out north. And he had a cabin out there, and when they'd go swimming and come back out, boy, they'd stop and say hi, and you want to hear my pet? He'd stomp on the floor and rattlesnake rattled underneath. He thought that was so cool. And then we have the
Rattlesnakes.
the importance of the sail barn. I think it was built in the late 40s, early 50s, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
Because I think Adolph Ahrens and I think Colby were the ones that partnered on it.
Right.
And then Eli Shader took over. But it was well known, and it was very vital for the area, for people to be able to buy and sell their animals.
So you said Adolph Ahrens,
And I think Wilbur Colby.
Wilbur,
And what about Torr? Or,
Harry.
he died over there. He was trucking. Did he do school bus? I'll think about it.
Yeah, I can't place that. And then I guess back when we had the centennial going on, They were asking about, there was a guy showed up and he said, who should I interview? Who would be a good story? And I said, Doc Wilson. Because he practiced with a horse and buggy, and I remember him telling about doing calls clear down to Cedar Bluff in the middle of the night. And his training was 6 months in Chicago to be a veterinarian. And then he started having veterinary training workshops in an old barn across where the FS building, the new FS building, just right across the street. There was a big white barn there. And, you know, he had people, vets come in, and they'd get a speaker come in and do a presentation to keep them.
And that was Virginia's dad,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had his office above where Keeney's have their,
No, it was downstairs
oh, it's downstairs.
in the old bank, on this side of the bank on the
See,
next.
see
The
who's
Season Insurance,
Yeah,
yeah.
see whose it is. Yes.
Yeah, there was a vet down there. I know when we cleaned it out, there was a lot of dark vials of all kinds of who knows what that we threw away.
And you didn't sample them.
No, but there was a lot of stuff down there. And that's what they
He
had said.
gave
It
a
was
lot of
veterinary.
that stuff to the state veterinary museum. And they called me and wanted me to come in and pick up some things. But,
Yeah.
interesting.
What's his name? Richard Wood, Dick Woods, right? He had said when we talked to him one time that guy had this swine vaccine. So when a swine flu came through, he vaccinated all the pigs around here.
The cholera, the hog cholera.
Yeah.
the cholera, yeah.
So that's why we kind of got the pork capital of the world, is because per capita our hogs didn't die and everybody else's did. He was telling that story one day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
And that was terrible in there. That cholera would come through, or it'd just destroy them all.
Yeah.
And we've got some that are showing up now that kind of do the same thing, and that was where Doc, that was his specialty, to go out and vaccinate the herds. And you could look at his fingers, and they were all crooked to match you,
Oh,
a syringe. And he'd always tell you stories about things that went on. It was just amazing, the stories that man could come up with. And I guess then I started thinking that we've always had a very strong baseball program here in Mechanicsville, with the Pee Wees and the Midget League and the Legion, and then I guess we had some town teams. And of course, that time, baseball was popular. You didn't have a TV to go look at. And but that was very strong. I know Adolph Ahrens was my coach.
Yeah.
When I was.
Yeah, he was a good player
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah. And he refereed a lot of basketball games here at Iowa. And then Alan started refereeing too, his son, because my brother married his daughter, Sally. And Dave's down there now, Bob. And then,
so you said Adolph Ahrens reffed some Iowa.
he was a
University
well-known
of-
referee, and he did the Iowa games, and he did a lot of high school,
Okay.
and he played, I think, semi-pro ball out of Cedar Rapids. They came down from Cedar Rapids. But he did a lot of semi-pro games too.
What was that?
Adolph Ahrens.
They were really into baseball.
And then Alan was a very good athlete, particularly basketball. And then he ended up going refereeing and did a lot of coaching, golf in Lisbon and Mount Vernon.
And he married Max's wife. Max's wife was his sister.
Yes, that's Sally. And I know there's a lot more history to that too, but then I got thinking about in the 50s, we had 5 grocery stores on Main Street,
Yeah.
and all did well. And I remember being in at Rusty's, where we did our grocery shopping, and Lee Scott was on the other corner where the guy does
The furniture.
furniture
Yeah.
guy. Lee came in and says, "I got somebody down there needs some such and such. Can I get some?" And he'd pick up the product and take it back to his customer because they cooperated.
So did they all 5 sell basically the same stuff, or did each one specialize in something?
And they did pretty much all
All
the
the
same. Yeah, they did a lot of meat cutting.
And the community kept them 5 grocery stores going.
Yeah. And there were a lot more people at that time because you had every farm was probably 80 to 160 acres, and they had 10 kids.
Right.
And so the school buses were full.
Yeah.
And so you just kept those businesses going.
So there was Rusty's and Lee Scott's and who else?
Joe Piter,
Is there a Reinhardt?
yeah,
Rusty Reinhardt.
Rusty
Okay, that was
Reinhardt.
Was it Scott? Was there Scott?
Lee
Yeah,
Scott.
he was down on the corner.
Yeah.
And then there was
Lee Scott, Rusty,
over there
Piter.
on the other side, Brocoal. Brocoal was on the north side up between the bank and post office in there somewhere.
And you didn't go to another grocery store because they had a sale like we do now.
Yeah,
Everybody shopped. We always shopped at Rusty Reinhardt's because Mom and Bethany were best friends. We never went into Joe's or Scott's. Even when I was with my friends uptown, I didn't dare step into Joe's for candy, for gosh sakes.
and at noon hour, we had the free noon hour. You'd leave, classes were over, you'd eat, and you'd go uptown, and we'd always go to Rusty's, and there'd be about 15, 20 guys in there just standing around and grabbing a candy bar and something to drink. And I always remember this one individual was kind of from a poor background, and Rusty just said, "So-and-so, you paid me yet?" Because he'd walk out without paying. But that was, and I think Rusty had some people, or Joe Piter had a little bit of that kind of stuff. So it was really a community thing.
So you remember what a candy bar cost?
A nickel
I was gonna say probably a nickel.
Yeah,
I know
Is it-
my
or
mom.
less.
My mom worked at Joe Piter's in the late '60s, early '70s, and everybody had their tab
yeah.
Yeah.
in the back, back behind Alva, and
She was there for a long, long
I
time.
was gonna say she was there in the late 70s because we always ran a tab up there, and it was Piter's then, and then Lloyd Stewart I think took over.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I think Rusty closed in like 1970,
Yeah, it'd been the
Seven?
70s there, something like that.
because I've got pictures of Wade on the shelf, and that was before Matt was born, and he was born in 74. So it was,
Yeah, because I know he and my David got along really good. And so he'd come out to the farm, and when we were gonna butcher something, why, he'd come out. I think he'd bring his saw out. And,
well, didn't we buy his meat grinder for the deer?
yeah, I think maybe the grinder, but Lee Scott's, Donnie bought Lee Scott's.
His grinder?
The freezer compartment, and I saw him at one of the meat saws.
Well, I remember he had that over in the garage, and it was there until 2000 and, well, it was after Granddad died, so it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah,
maybe it was before, when he moved to Corville.
Yeah.
So that was in the 2000s.
I say, you guys always had a good group of deer hunters, didn't you?
Yeah.
I thought you did. I thought,
Yeah.
remember Wade talking about it.
Yeah.
They got to going to, well, Donnie, well, like, oh, what's his name? Rhodes. Got them started, and it just built. They started with 5 or 6, and then there was 10, and then there was 12.
Well, they
They
went out in
split.
groups of 2,
Yeah, they split up and go separates, and that went on for
forest
years.
roads.
Forest roads.
Okay.
And Forrest did not hunt. He did early, and I think he had a situation that kind of softened him dramatically. He said, "I'm not going to hunt anymore." He'd hit a deer, and it didn't do it any good.
Well, and he built that trailer that you guys took to
Yeah.
Wyoming for years and years and
Yeah.
years.
And I think he gave that to Phil.
He
after
gave it to
passed.
Don and Phil, yeah, we had it for a long time.
Yeah,
But then Randy Rouse is a nephew
yeah.
or a grandson.
Something in there asked for it.
Oh, is Randy related to you, Rouse? Or-
Not that
He
I
was-
know.
he was-
Rhodes.
Oh, to Rhodes,
To
okay.
Forest
Really?
Roads. And I think, wasn't it his grandfather? Because I finally found the key, and I found one there not too long ago, and I threw it away because I knew he'd changed the lock. So that we couldn't find the key at that time.
But that was, I know, we still see it so strong, from back then. You knew your neighbors. You worked together. You baled hay. You combined together. You picked corn. You'd help plant corn, whatever.
And clean their neighbor's weeds. She takes good care of me.
And the one that, I guess, I'll go back down to this one, the Saturday night band concerts where the memorial building is. There was a platform back there against the wall.
Joe, wasn't that Wednesday night?
Was that Wednesday night?
It was Saturday night? I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah. In there somewhere. It struck me as Friday, but it could have been Saturday. But then Wednesday kind of stood out because people would go to town on certain nights. That was an entertainment night.
Yeah.
Okay, where did they have the dance hall? Where was the dance hall?
Dance hall.
Stanwood.
Well, I know that. But this
Well, it
was when
one at
Don,
Cedar Bluffs.
no, when your parents were younger and Don and Edith were younger. And wasn't it where they had the ladies in the white gowns? Rainbow,
Oh, Eastern Star.
Eastern Star, is that where they had? They had a dance hall in the top floor of one of those places.
Well,
I
there
remember
was,
talking about it.
there was the, where the Legion was above Joe's.
Yeah, yeah, but there was
There was
a
a-
meeting place up there.
Yeah,
I think the Legion was up there.
yeah.
But then they had, I think Donnie talked about, there was the big room up there, they used to play basketball.
I heard
High school
stories that
basketball
they
up
played
there.
basketball up there.
Wasn't there a theater at one time above Joe's?
That was right between Rusty's and Joe's. There was a,
I was up there when Tom Hall bought that building. And we could go from his building into that. And it evidently was a theater because they had a little,
Is it still up there? It was when I was a kid and
Oh.
snuck in there, like an old ticket booth type thing.
oh, really?
yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
if Marty cleaned all that out or not.
But
Probably.
Clemvick's had one there next to Rusty.
Yeah.
And then there was one over at Hugh Lamont's. That big room was a movie theater
I don't
back in the
remember that.
50s.
Didn't they call that the Cedar Theater, the one that was on the south side?
I don't know.
I can remember going to Saturday cartoons there every Saturday.
And that was,
Saturday cartoons. At the movie theater in town.
yeah,
Yeah,
Huh,
yeah.
interesting.
free TV.
I was gonna say, it must be before TV.
Oh, way
Yeah.
before TV, yeah.
And there was, you know, Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse and Woody Woodpecker and all those guys.
Looney
Yeah,
Tunes.
Yeah.
So that was above Joe's or
At one
above
time.
Rusty's.
At one
Cedar
time.
Theater that we went to, there was nothing, when I was a kid,
I
there
don't
was
remember
nothing
that one
up there.
but that one
It was the
between
one,
Rusty and Joe Piters,
yeah,
there was one on that. I don't know what's in there
Yeah.
now.
Kinda like where Our Place restaurant was at one time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But upstairs.
no, downstairs.
Oh, downstairs,
Yeah.
okay.
Because they had the floors sweep back down.
Yeah, I remember going back in and around the corner because the kitchen kinda sat up there in the front. There was like 2 doors. I remember that right, when you went in, the bar was along here and you could kinda go.
Yeah, going around up the corner. Can't remember that.
I was pretty young, but
Investigate that.
I know that,
they had good chicken, that's all I remember.
well, I know that one across the road, I was about that age when Santa Claus would come. So
I
they
don't
had a big
remember that.
Christmas feature at that time. And the
So,
one that,
when did they build that new Legion building there?
the memorial building
Yeah.
was what, the 50s?
I
And
remember
it was during the
being
war
built.
because they were, which one of the boys was killed in the war?
Zenishek,
No,
Bush.
Bush and Dennis, the two people.
okay.
So did they have to tear something down to build it, or was there a
That was
fire
all-
there?
that
It was
was
just
open.
all open?
Because there was the band.
Oh, that's where the band
pad
shell was at
up
there?
there, yeah.
Oh,
And, yeah, that was a big thing, and I remember Doc Liddy worked in the building across the street, upstairs.
Yes,
If you were sick, you had to go up those creaky stairs.
yes, and they were rickety old
And that, was
stairs.
that the Season Insurance Building?
Yeah.
They still are creaky. They still are creaky.
And, but then he ended up going over on that, where the old med center was, on the other side of the post office. He moved there
Yeah.
right after that, which
Yeah.
really made a big difference. Or I always remember our granddad was really pretty frail, and he had to climb those steps to get up there. And then I don't know if the phone company office was up there.
Up there, yeah. Yeah, actually, when I was up there, before they put the apartment up there, the glass was still in the doors, and I remember the dock lid, and I think one of them did say phone company on it.
Yeah, yeah.
They're probably still up there somewhere.
that'd be neat to have those doors.
I think Bruce and Brenda might own the building. I don't know who owns it now.
But they called the operator, and I think she had a bed back in here. I think they had a couple of people that did it, and I think Dad was called in there something. I gotta come in and get the kids. Yeah, I just saw them walk across the street over there.
Yeah, everybody knew everybody's business,
Yeah.
didn't they?
Yeah,
And of
Yeah, I
course,
thought I
that was
read an article somewhere where that lady that was the operator there was like, for 50 years, that was her job.
yeah.
There was an article, one of the old articles.
Well, when Phil and I were married, we still had
Party lines.
party lines, yeah.
2 longs and a short.
I don't remember, all I remember is I had to, at midnight, had to tell Cynthia that I needed to use the phone because I was going into labor and needed to call Edith to tell her we were going in.
And I think it's probably because you're in the country, right? Because I think Patsy and Jimmy still had a party line out there too.
We'd pick up the phone and listen to Stella. Stella Danley on the phone.
I still, just when I had a phone, I still picked it up and listened to it to see if somebody was on before I dialed.
Yeah.
That was a habit.
Well, this was in the 70s, and we were still on a party
Yeah.
line.
Was it?
We had a set
Yeah,
that
I think
had,
late '70s. We moved here in '76, and I remember Patsy and Jimmy having it.
in '73 when we moved into the house that I'm in now, we were on a party thing.
Didn't you build that house?
When you were talking about listening to so-and-so, there was, you talk to the women and they say, I just happened to take the phone down and so-and-so was talking, and I just happened to hear this. So everybody knew everybody's business.
Sure.
Yeah. that was
And the
fun.
one that kind of stood out to me, I thought about this, Dave Edwards, that'd be Jan Domer's dad. He and his wife would buy old houses and remodel and sell them. And then he'd buy a lot and build a house on them. I did like that block is up from the school on Main Street. There was probably a half a dozen, 6, 8 houses in there that they built or remodeled.
Well, they remodeled out in the country too, to a,
Yeah, that was out where Domers lived.
where Domers live.
Well, I think it was on this side of where Andrews are.
Okay. I can't think of the name.
But they
Edie
did.
Oldorf's husband, I thought he had that farm for a while.
Willie?
Oh.
Edie and Gerald Willie?
Doug Willie?
Or Doug.
Yeah, I can't. Well, Doug worked for Colby for a long,
Colby Farm is where they remodeled.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, up there.
That was one of them.
But when you kind of put history together, he was one of those guys that just stood out that really added to the community by the inputs that he did. And I know he talked about that when you were buying rolling properties like that, said you didn't pay taxes because if you got your money right back into something else. But he says, someday it's going to catch up. And did.
Yeah.
I think the Smay house, and then there was right next door was the old boy that ran the when the restaurant was across from the post office, Bert
Bert
Eggerty
Before our time.
Yeah,
had a store there of clothes, and he was in his 80s, and that house back in there was boards, not painted, and it just looked like a haunted house. But then when he passed, they went through that store, and they put the word out nationally to come and buy these antiques, new old, or old new. Yeah, because it's
New old stock.
yeah, the caps and hats and shoes, buckled button shoes.
Well, where was the Differding store? It was the harness shop.
It was right about where it might have been
It was on the north side of the road, wasn't it?
the library. But the new section of the library, I think. Right in that area, because he did repaired shoes. He did made harnesses, repaired harnesses and all that kind of stuff. And that would have been Dave Edwards' father-in-law. So that was kind of a,
And I'm not sure where Dave was from, Anamosa or Monticello or someplace.
was it? I don't know where he came from.
I think he still has brothers, well, they're deceased now, but brothers and sisters around.
He talked about being in World War II.
He very seldom talked about that, didn't he?
Just very seldom.
He had a rough
I think they kind of followed, who's the tank guy that went into Germany?
Sherman,
No,
Patton.
Patton.
yeah,
Patton.
yeah, I think that was it,
So Dave Edwards was in World War II.
yes. And he saw a lot.
Yeah, I think, well, Jan she wants to donate it to the History Center, but his flag, and I think he's got some medals too. that-
She has a lot of stuff out there. When I stopped out and talked to her that day.
I know, she doesn't want to get rid of it though, that's,
Yeah, she said she just had a lot of cleaning to do. She had a lot of stuff in there.
yeah.
Pretty hard to let go of that stuff,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I got a few things from her.
Yeah, and the older we get, the less we like to give away.
Yeah.
We want to keep it.
So Dave Edwards, was he our
He was a plumber,
plumber?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was trying to think, plumber.
and I think he did a little bit of electricity, but mainly
Mainly
was plumber.
plumbing. Yeah.
I remember when you pull the well pipe up out with the pump went dead, and he'd be sweating like a bullet. He says, "Oh, I hate this," because when that thing let go, it was gone.
And then Clarence Maher was the HVAC?
Electrician.
Oh, he was, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know you could almost go every location and give a big story about what was there.
Well, and Jen talked about, her mom and dad ran this old house. It was over on Fox Avenue, on the blacktop there on the corner,
On the corner?
wasn't it? On the
Now,
corner?
that was just a gas station, but on up
Yeah,
to the east was a
Well, there were
was a cafe.
a cafe and inns and,
Yeah, they had-
and,
Yeah,
So
they-
this old house is now where Doc and Joe's was?
Yeah,
yeah,
By the car wash there?
yeah, and,
but I don't think that was there at that time. That came in the 50s, 40s, 50s maybe.
Yeah, there were a bunch of small, like, motor lodges back there
Yeah.
that eventually became apartments.
you know. Well, she talked about her dad working there, and her mom would walk her across the highway to go to school. So it had to, she was born in 43.
We should be
That was
able
a
to,
good year.
we should be able to draw
Yeah,
some
you were
map
born in
on
42.
where it was, so. Huh.
Can't fool me.
So, you might have some other things.
I'm pretty well covered what
Okay.
I had just put down as things to discuss.
I want you to tell the story of the Indian, so that we have it,
Remember, do you know that?
so
You
we
probably-
have it on tape here. And,
You two can,
so that we can get the story that you know, because I know we talked about it,
Yeah. I
and
couldn't remember it all, but you've told it to me before and I remember it.
so we can get our story straight from the country here. And
Do you want to talk?
no,
can help
I
too.
don't know any of the details about that. Do you?
Late in, Julia was Pat's mother, yeah. And she said when she was about 8 years old, it's the Kleppy farm now, but I don't know who the people were that lived there, just in the mid-20s maybe.
you said tour?
No, that Taurus was where I am.
Okay.
But they looked out one morning and there was somebody down in the barn. So they walked down to see and said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, he was an Indian, an old Indian. He says, "I was born here and I've come back to die here." And so they, I think she knew our grandmother, Grace Buffer, and said, "What should we do? Because this is a big undertaking." And I said, "Well, I guess the Christian thing to do would be to care for him till he passes." So they did. And when he finally died, they went over to where that cemetery is, there was a church there. And they asked the officials, can we bury him here? No, we don't want any of them things in here. And they said, okay. And I remember your mother made the comment that Big Daddy was my grandfather, came out, was harnessing up the buckboard, and she wanted to go with him. No, not today. But he went over there and they picked up this Indian over at the Cluppy farm, took him over and buried him just outside the fence.
Clear Creek Cemetery. Clear Creek Cemetery?
No, the Union.
The Union?
That's
Okay.
Union.
There's no marker or anything. We always
No,
wondered.
there was no mark. It's outside the fence, and I know one of the supervisors made the comment, if you could prove that, we're gonna move the fence.
To include him, huh?
Yeah. But that was, I think your mother told you guys, because Susan was one that I think kind of filled me up on it,
Yeah, it could be.
but that was, and I hadn't heard that
Yeah.
until then.
Well, Donnie talked about it.
No. So I'm a trustee now, and I have been tempted just to, I use those wires and
Oh.
be disturbed ground.
So the Union Cemetery, you're talking the one by Lairs?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one that we refurbed. You know, we had all the stones
Oh.
reworked.
We just had the rededication, wasn't it last year? A year
Last year,
ago?
2 years ago, I
Has
think.
it been 2 years
Yeah.
ago?
Yeah, it's really nice now.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Improved a lot.
I've got my old phone that got wiped out. I took pictures down some of those rows, those old rows, and there was maybe one stone here and maybe one over here. And Eric Sorjan from New Liberty was the one that came up and fixed that. And he went and probed through, went back, and there were stones all the way up.
Well,
They had just got covered.
the Jack family took care of it for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Coons.
What-
My dad did for a while,
A
and then the
little
Coons took over.
Yeah.
Okay.
We took care of it,
Well, good.
kids. Yeah, and then Mindy and Mark did it for a while too, I think.
Nice.
Very peaceful place, I think.
Yeah. Andrea, I took her down there years ago, and she said, if anything ever happens to me, that's where I want to be.
Well, there used to be an Indian camp.
Yeah, this, when the Puffers moved here in the late 80s, or, you know, I think in the 18s, they had a house down off the creek, you know,
West of here.
west of here.
Yeah, they still get limestones turned up once in a while.
But they had a house there, and then every spring, there was a plum thicket and probably a hazelnut thicket up on top, and that's where the Indians camped for the summer. And that's why the Cluppies have found so many arrowheads there. So it was, and that was normal. I remember Howard Carpenter telling about his dad had the Indians come up the creek to go when they were going to town to get stuff.
Well, they've found some mounds back in here too, haven't they?
We had 2 on our place.
When
back
they
in
were
our
working the roads?
No,
the bridge?
when we bought it, I guess when Mother and Dad were given that by Big Daddy. And like Donnie had seen those mounds, and Max had seen those mounds. And then Dad hired a guy to come in and clean the trees back, and he pushed that stuff over the top of them. And I talked to a guy oh, you know where the Leif Hudacek was clear back up on the Badger Road, and this guy bought some property, and then he's got a house clear up on top to the north, and he says, I've got 10 mounds on my place.
Oh,
And he's very interested in artifacts.
So you're talking Indian mounds, so there'd be Indians buried under there?
Most likely. He said, I've not had anybody look at it because, up there along the river, they would be in a formation, a bear formation, or some kind of a feature
Yeah.
that would set them off. And he says, so I want to go up there and look at that. He invited me to come look at his arrowheads and stuff.
So the ones down here are out in your timber?
Yeah.
You live just north of Wylands on that road?
Yeah.
Is that where you live? That's what I thought.
Yeah. And then we've got that for sale now, back in behind.
The timber.
Yeah. But we want to set it up as a conservation easement, that they can't clear it, build houses in there, to respect the animals and the simplicity of the area.
But that's where these Indian mounds are.
Yeah.
Would they let them build back there with the Indian mounds?
Well, it ain't gonna happen, but I don't, if there's any suspicions, then they would do an archaeological study.
Because didn't they do that when they were remodeling that bridge down by your house?
Yeah, they were gonna replace it, and so they had the people from the university come out and dig things, and he said they found chert here and there, but he says nothing of significance. But I had him we laid our arrowheads out on the hood of the car, and then he put them all into age groups.
Wow.
And what Indians they were, what time frame it was, and it was so fascinating.
Interesting.
Anything that you can think of?
no, most of my stories are real personal.
So give
Well, if you want to share them.
You can
Well-
share.
Like, Big Daddy he liked technology. He liked to have a new tractor, and he had one of the first TVs in Cedar County, I know. It was like 8 inches.
There's a picture of that in here someplace.
And
Keith
it
Connor.
sat right over there.
Yep.
Keith Connor's family. I had probably the first one because we'd go over there and watch it, and right after that, Big Daddy got one.
Yeah. And our first one was when we lived in the house that you live in. So that would have been after about 46 maybe.
Yeah,
You lived
A little
where
later
where Joe
yeah,
lives?
that's where she was born. There, when
No, I didn't know that.
he didn't.
Yeah.
And Julia,
And then you built a house
Yeah.
in
about
70.
50.
And then they moved into,
That one.
Well, you used to live in the house over on the
Yeah.
blacktop.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then we burnt that down to put our trailer in
Yeah.
when Phil and I got married. And
Yeah.
then Don and Edith built over there, and we moved here.
No, I can remember going over there to play because I didn't have any other playmates but the boys. So.
You poor baby.
We had a sand pile down next to the garage, and I don't know if they've got pictures of me and Susie playing in the sand down in there. But,
You were, at one time I remember you were at our house, down by the garage. by the driveway, and you were being very secretive, and come to find out you were rolling cigarettes with leaves.
Who was that guy?
I think I have a picture. We have old movies from 46 to, who knows, 80s maybe, 70s or 80s. And I took those over to my sister's in the nursing home now, and so I took them over there. I have them on a CD
Did she recognize
to show
him?
her. And I don't know whether it rang a bell or not, I don't know, but the first ones were when she was born, would be 46. So there's a lot of pictures of you guys and our Sunday suppers out there in the driveway.
And that was one of the things that the families would all get together on a regular basis, every holiday, maybe Sundays,
Yeah.
and bring potluck. And
Well, even after Phil and I were married, we went down to your house every Sunday.
Yeah.
To your folks' house, to your mom's house every Sunday, and we'd eat.
Oh,
Phil and I, yeah.
Yeah. They tried to keep that going, but when everybody kind of scattered, it was hard to keep it going. One of the movies
Where the
has
grandparents
Graham
leave, that's it.
with a big wagon or something with a handle on the back, and the wagon was full of kids, mostly boys.
Oh.
And that was our treat, to be being pushed around the barnyard in that cart.
Well, did your mom go to the school that was on your property there?
Ed did,
Ed did?
because they had the teachers
Did
that lived with them.
Yeah.
And she taught him, and he won the state spelling contest.
Yeah, I thought they went to Mechanicsville because Mom talked about riding the school bus, which was a horse and wagon.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
I know he talked about that he had gone to school there, but then when they consolidated these districts, well, they moved him out.
Yeah. Well, I can remember when our part was consolidated. Yeah, I was in high school.
Really?
Because that would have been just whatever those are called, not townships, but Parcels or
School
something.
sections.
yeah.
Okay, then they talked about Bush College. I think I said something.
Brush College.
Brush College, yeah, Brush College. But it wasn't really a college, was it?
It was a local school.
I don't know.
Well,
That was that
Graham
way, right?
Puffer,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, Graham Puffer went there for a reunion.
And I always remember Big Daddy making a comment that he used to deliver wood over there. And he says this little girl was just bouncing with her pigtails in the air. That was my grandmother. I think she got married when she was 17.
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. It was,
But that was about the age of marriage back then.
yeah, well, there's about 8 or 9 years difference between
Was it?
Big Daddy and Graham. Yeah.
So Grandma, you're talking about Julia?
No,
No.
No,
Grace Puffer.
Grace.
Grace, okay.
And that,
it would have been Don and Julia's parents.
Okay.
they were, she was born
That's
in
them, these people.
Miller, South Dakota. And when they came back after the farming failed, they moved to where Ferguson's used to live,
Everett
yeah, where
Ferguson.
Dean
back in
Ferguson.
there.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, and
they got married in 1905.
so maybe that's when she went to school
I don't know.
there. I don't know. That was a big family too, but they were mostly girls.
Well, because they always talked about Big Daddy would go over to see her at the house, and then they chased the kids off to they'd get on the register above and
The kids would.
giggle
Yeah.
when they were talking. They thought that was so cool.
Yeah. I think the house that Ferguson's lived in was back further into the timber.
Okay.
And when, I don't know when they moved it up further. And that's really not very far from where I live.
Yeah.
Right,
It's a walking distance, actually.
yeah.
The story that comes to mind right now is the surveyors.
Oh,
You've heard that story, haven't you?
my dad told that one, yeah.
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 Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to tell?
Yeah.
Well, we found this out when we were deeded the property to build the house, that my dad said the surveyors that surveyed that for the
Whole area.
yeah, the whole,
Even up and through ours.
Yeah. All these
they
areas.
were evidently drunk.
So
And they
they
made
come
so
back to-
many mistakes, and
They-
I have paid for those mistakes
So have
over
I.
and over.
So
I
have
lost
I.
my asparagus patch because of that mistake.
They, Ed said that they'd go out, they'd get their buckboards and go out. And when they came back in, they were so drunk they couldn't put the horses away.
When they all laid in the back of the buckboards.
And they screwed up
Yeah.
the acres terribly.
Terrible.
Yours too?
Yeah.
Yep.
Over the
That's where mi-
chlorate, yeah.
That's where mine's screwed up too, yeah.
Is yours short or long?
I can't remember.
'Cause I know
I think it's short.
The
Marge Conway.
Conways, they
That's-
were way short.
Well, I thought they were 13 acres long.
Oh, that might have been because they said that they wanted credit for those, and they told them, says, well, we can do that if you pay all the back taxes.
I think Dad fought him for a while, trying to get our road straightened out, but, or.
That's
my
useless.
road, yeah.
So if you were short, somebody else was long then.
Yep.
Well, I think some of that ground over in there, we were long, like 9 acres, 180.
Yeah.
Well, and
Like
when we
that
bought
way
that
or
from
something.
Thompson's, I think it's 84 acres.
I think you were longer than that. They credited for that probably, but
And
the
then
actual
what,
acres.
well, then what was yours? If we got long, did you get shorted on that
No,
end?
we were long. Well, I think it was like 9 over, and I thought that yours was 12 over.
Well, that'd be good for us. I didn't know it was that long.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole area was really messed up.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it must have been land in not butting up the gravel roads then, like, because don't the gravel roads usually divided up?
Well,
Yeah, the gravel doesn't follow the
well, you know where
section
our,
lines.
section line,
you
yeah.
know where our quarry is? You
Mhm.
guys all used to go and
Yeah.
drink all the time?
You know?
You didn't think anybody knew.
Well, I,
But that road was never there when they surveyed it. It was north.
Down in the valley.
It was north. Was
Yeah.
it down?
Down in the valley.
Yeah, and then when, I lost my train of thought.
the road was never there.
The road was never there, and then when they did move it, all the deeds, every single deed was based on the road. Well, the road was further north than when they did the deeds. So everything was based on the road. And the road was no longer there, it was further south.
And the county never did rectify that.
No,
So why did they move the road? Why didn't they just leave it in that? Wasn't there a creek that ran through that valley?
there
I
still
remember?
is a creek,
Okay.
but it flooded all the time, this
Okay.
road flooded all the time, so they took from the quarry and they took off that road. Don talked about that, cause he'd ride his bike over to watch them. But they took the road and gravelled it all off.
Yeah, if I remember right, just on this side of that quarry, on the north side of the road, isn't there a?
Underpass?
Didn't they dump a bunch of stuff off? Like
Yeah.
I was with
People
Dusty
did.
Wyland when we were kids, and we'd go in there and find old